the reason I like their approach of starting with the strategy and working backwards is that it always works. It works no matter which industry you're in and which kind of KPIs you're looking for, because your strategy is a given. You need to figure out how to measure it.
So when you're doing your analytics, like what kind of metrics should you track and analyze?
Great question. So I mentioned already that you shouldn't just track what you get out of your accounting system. Right? It shouldn't just be sales and expenses. You need to also compare operational metrics. And then often the question is, where do we even start, right? How do I find out what to compare? So I think it's always important to start with the foundation, with the basics. And when we look at the basics, you start with lagging indicators versus leading indicators. So your lagging indicators, that's unit sales, revenue, expenses, profit, what you get out of the accounting system. And those they are called lagging because they are the result of your actions.
So pretty much the P&L.
Yes, pretty much the P&L. Yeah, or the balance sheet as well. But then you have leading indicators. So leading indicators tell you something about how those lagging indicators that you care about might behave in the future. So it could be things like sales pipeline, order intake, or that's very clear, right? Or maybe not so clear, but could also be really impactful is customer hotline call volume, right? Because if you get more people calling your hotline, then maybe there's a product, a quality issue that you...
But who owns these indicators? Like who owns this data usually?
So that's what makes this really interesting, because there are probably many people around the company that you would have to talk to and to really understand, okay, what are my leading indicators? Where do I get the data from in the first place, right? And that really differs company by company in terms of how integrated your IT systems are. Some companies have a data lake in the cloud where you get all of these fairly easily. But in other companies, it may mean, hunting down the right Excel spreadsheets. But I would argue that it's worth it, because if you can make a real connection between these leading indicators and the lagging indicators, then your forecast accuracy and also your variance analysis just goes to the next level.
And how do we know which one to use? Because I see here there's a long list. So how do we know what benchmark to use? And
there's a long list. So I recommend two ways to figure out which one to choose. One is working backwards from the strategy, and the other one is benchmarking. So if we start with working backwards from the strategy, you first need to understand with what are we really trying to achieve, right? What are the different strategies that my company is going after this year? Because in the end, what you're trying to figure out with variance analysis is how well are we doing in achieving the strategy. So that's step number one. Step number two is you need to define what it means to be successful at a high level. You're not really thinking about KPIs yet, but you need to understand, okay, when can I tick the box and say this strategy, it was successful? And then you look at the drivers. So identify what needs to be true for you to be able to say, yes, this strategy works. Probably you have multiple drivers, and those drivers is essentially the wheels you can turn, the levers you can pull in your company. And then you brainstorm the metrics to measure those drivers. And I'll go through an example in a moment. But this brainstorming session is important. You're not yet deciding which metrics to track. You're separating that from the brainstorming session. Because if you don't yet want to think about, okay, how do I even get the data for this? Is this even possible? Just get a piece of paper, a Word document, and write those down. And this is also where AI can be super, super helpful. AI is a great brainstorming partner if you have at least intermediary knowledge in a specific skill, right? If you're complete novice in something, AI can sometimes mislead you. But if you understand the topic, then it can be a fantastic brainstorming partner.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like you can use AI just to get some comparables, industry data, and see what is ideal for your niche industry or your niche company.
Yeah. And then you look at availability. So only once you're done with that ideal list, you do the availability step where you look at, okay, do we even have the data? Can we get it? Is the data reliable? And then lastly, you make a decision about which metric to track. Because this can sound a bit abstract, I want to give you a concrete example with this made-up company Pair. You can think of Pair as software as a service company, so a company that sells subscriptions, B2C, business to consumer.
Mhm.
So they're investors that get impatient about seeing profitability, but their growth has been accelerating at the expense of increased marketing investments. And so now they must increase sales without further investing more in their customer acquisition costs. I'm sorry, that's a bit cut off here. Then the next step is define success. How do you define success? Well, we want to increase sales by 20% compared to the prior year. And ideally, we want to do that while keeping customer acquisition costs below 5%. That's the second step. Then we identify drivers, who and what ideally. So the average contract value needs to increase, the website conversion rate needs to go up, and customer retention should also go up. That's the third step. Oh, and marketing needs to reach more people while ideally, spending the same amount. Then you brainstorm the metrics. So you may look at things like average order value, website conversion rate, customer retention rate, put everything on a piece of paper. And then you look at the availability. So for example, in this case, average order value, you can easily get that from your e-commerce platform, no issue there. Website conversion rate, you should have analytics tool to do that. Customer retention rate, now this is a little bit more complicated perhaps because you need to integrate the history. Customer acquisition costs, you can combine marketing expense data with new customers acquired. And then lastly, customer satisfaction score, you can use surveys to get that. So that sounds fine on paper, but now you actually have to see, do you even have the resources to do that? And it's sometimes not the finance resources, but sometimes you need other teams' resources as well. So you may look at average order value and website conversion rate and say, yep, we already have that, no problem, we can track this. But for customer retention rate and customer acquisition cost, there's more work that you need to do. You need to do integration work. And so if you can test it, if you can do it just with a small set of data and see how time consuming is this, highly recommended to do a test first before you commit to something that may take days every month. And then you may also run into problems where you say, okay, customer satisfaction, it's feasible, we could definitely do it, but we need help from other teams to create the survey, to launch the websites. And since those teams are already very stretched, we postpone tracking this. So that's an example of going through this process. And then I mentioned that there are two ways to analyze these, to identify which metrics to track. The other way is benchmarking. So benchmarking means you look at what are your competitors doing and which metrics they are tracking. And we also do benchmarking outside of variance analysis to compare our financials to those of our competitors and hopefully learn something from that. And I have a few tips on how to best approach this. So start with the objectives. What's the desired output of the analysis? In our case, we want to compare our key performance indicators to those of our competitors. And then what's really important is that you don't just choose your one or two direct competitors that you have, because you can learn a lot from indirect competitors and also best-in-class companies. So to give you an example, let's take Netflix. Direct competitor of Netflix would be Hulu and Disney Plus, but there are also indirect competitors. So for example, an indirect competitor of Netflix would be Electronic Arts or Microsoft Games, companies that produce computer games or console games, because people split the time between video games and Netflix. And then you may also I would recommend you also look at best-in-class companies. So those are companies that are not necessarily even in the same industry. For example, Netflix may look at Apple, or they may look at Meta. We just need to be careful when we look at best-in-class companies. in which context we're doing that. Looking at best-in-class companies is great. For example, if you're looking at benchmarking your salary ranges to those of your competitors, because you are still competing for talent with those companies. When it comes to KPIs and metrics, look at best-in-class companies, but always take it with a grain of salt that if it's a completely different industry, you likely have different metrics.
Christian, I have a question
Yeah.
that's most relevant here. So what happens if your competitors are not public?
Great question. Really good question. So there are ways to collect data from competitors that are not public. So let's start with the public ones first because it's a bit easier. When they're public, don't just go to Yahoo Financials and look at the aggregate financial data there. Go to the investor calls. Once a quarter, companies that are listed in the U.S. stock exchange, they have to they typically have a call once a quarter where they answer questions from investors. Those can be super, super insightful and can learn from that. But then if your competitors are private, there are ways you can also get that data. One is, so there are data sets you can purchase. So those are typically aggregate data sets that have been anonymized. But even though it's anonymized, you can still learn a lot from the data and from the metrics they track. And the other thing you can do is you can see if you can learn from venture capitalists that cover your niche. You can read their blog posts, you can listen to it when they're being interviewed, and sometimes you can also learn a lot just by listening to what do those venture capitalists focus on. And then you analyze the data, right? You conduct quantitative analysis, ideally also qualitative. So look specifically also about, even if they don't mention a metric in their disclosures, in their on the slides that they're sharing, look at what are topics they're talking about. Are they talking about customer satisfaction, for example? Then they're probably tracking customer satisfaction in one way or the other. Are they talking about employee morale? Then they're probably tracking that, right? So it's important to look at the qualitative factors as well. And that's how you identify your metrics. So again, you start with the strategy, you work backwards, or you follow a benchmarking process.
Thank you. That was a lot. I know everyone is extremely excited to learn from that. So why don't we do an example now?
Yes, let's do an example. So and also gives me an opportunity to talk a bit more about best practices now for variance analysis.
Exactly. Like any best practices you can talk about, that would be extremely appreciated.
Yeah. So I'll start with a concrete example. So let's say we're comparing our actuals to the forecasts and we identify that travel expenses are unfavorable by 25,000. That's the what, right?